The boroughs are New York City. The burbs are everywhere else. Real estate is the ultimate game of risk and reward. It's the biggest investment most people ever make. Fortunes are made over a lifetime and lost in a day. And we're not playing with monopoly money. How do you stay ahead? Who's buying? Who's selling? And why? What do they know? We want the truth. You need an edge. Boroughs and Burbs is your secret weapon, giving you the insider knowledge and strategies you need to succeed in the high-stakes world of real estate. From Palm Beach to Palm Springs, Manhattan to Malibu, we press the experts to expose the pain, find the deals, and occasionally predict the future. That's Boroughs and Burbs, Thursdays, 3 o'clock Eastern, noon Pacific. Because everyone can make money in real estate.
Welcome, everybody. Boroughs and Burbs. Welcome. Season 4, episode 141. I'm going to share screen. There we are. There's our page on YouTube where you can get all 141 episodes. I want to begin by thanking our sponsor, GraceFarmsFoods.com. You'll find them at sharegracefarms.com. Now available in Whole Foods Market. You've got all of their fabulous teas and coffees. You can also get them online and put in the coupon code on your first order. And I thought that was going to scroll to their newest tea, but I don't see it scrolling. Anyway, that's my co-host, Roberto Cabrera. You should go to robertocabrera.com and download his latest market report on the Manhattan real estate market. There's John Engel. That's me. That's my daughter, the ballerina, promoting one of my listings at theengelteam.com. And now I'd like to introduce you to our special guests today, Emily Waldman and Megan Gallagher. They're part of the nextmoveaustin.com team. Let me hit back and show you their website. Get to know us. And I think that was, yep, there it is. The lovely city of Austin, where we're going to talk today about 3D printed homes. Welcome, Emily. Welcome, Megan. How are you?
We're great. How are you doing?
And welcome, Roberto. It's so good to have you there. Where are you dialing in from today?
I'm on the Upper West Side. You know that. Manhattan.
Okay.
And the world for me.
And Emily and Megan, where are you?
We are in our Elliman office here right in downtown Austin.
And how big an office is it?
We've got about 60 agents here. Yeah.
And are they all equally expert in 3D printed homes, or are you the experts that I have to contact if I get down to Austin?
Well, we don't like to call ourselves experts. I think we're a little humble, but we know a thing or two about a thing or two when it comes to 3D printing. We're thrilled to represent the Sunday Homes at El Cosmico, which is a 3D printed hotel project that will be breaking ground at the end of this year. And we've learned a lot about 3D printing through that process. We're fortunate in Austin that Icon Technology, one of the companies that's at the forefront with 3D printing, is based here in Austin as well. That's the developer of the project and the builder. And we have quite a few 3D printed homes in Austin that have traded and sold on the resale market as well. So
I have two guests in the audience that I want to bring your attention to. Scott Hobbs, known as Scott H, there in on my Hollywood Squares. He is a regular builder. He builds homes the old-fashioned way. And Kay, I see Kay there. Kay is an investor in Austin, in real estate in Austin. So she may have a perspective on the Austin market. So we may ask Kay. Kay, you jump in there with a question anytime you want.
Sure.
So glad to have you. Anyway.
Well, we would actually like to have a 3D printed barn in New Canaan on our property. That's my reason for signing on to this today.
Yeah, we want to know more about whether we can, this is a cool thing to do and whether it's a cool thing that we can do up here in Connecticut. But first, why don't you begin and tell us a little bit about the Sunday Homes, and I'll pull them up on the screen.
Yeah.
Perfect. So the Sunday homes, and we'll give you a little background here on even the name. So Sunday homes are being built out in Marfa, Texas, which is an area in West Texas, about 6.5 hours from Austin, only about 2 hours from El Paso, so pretty far out there. The Sunday home is an old reference to rancher families would have their big ranches, and then they would have a house in town that they came to on Sundays to go to church and host friends and family. So this is kind of meant to be like that, a house that your family comes to, and out there kind of in West Texas. So that's a little map there to give you a lay of the land of where we are. El Cosmico is a hotel that has been out in Marfa for many years now. They are looking to expand. So they bought a new 60-acre parcel and they're expanding the hotel to when they'll be completed. They will be the first 3D printed hotel in the world. And they're adding 37 of these Sunday homes on the property as well.
I thought the only thing in Marfa was a Prada store.
That's actually outside Marfa, just barely, but yeah. Marfa's been a real for art.
I gotta tell you, John introduced this and Robin, and I was just like, this is a gimmick. This is a complete gimmick. And then I looked at your website, and it's extraordinary what you're doing. And you actually, now what I was really interested to see how it was actually done. And you can actually, there's an image or a moving image, there's a video there of the machine actually laying it down like it's like laying icing on a cake.
Yep.
It's so cool. I mean, so they did a property here in Austin, 3D printed, that was one of their first houses, and it actually was printed a few blocks away from where I live. So I would walk my dogs by it every evening, and you really, as a natural born skeptic, you're like, that's never gonna happen. And then you watch it get printed and you're like, well, there it is. It's really taking shape right before our eyes and at a speed that was, you know, just shocking to see in real time. They can print so quickly.
What can you tell me about the material? I mean, like, for example, there's wood and there's a concrete. Like, is this material, is it heavy? Is it, you know?
So it is a proprietary blend of concrete, specific to Icon. So every 3D printer is going to have their own technology. I'm most familiar with Icons, of course, and they use their own 3D material blend. Yeah.
And I would say it is heavy. That's definitely. Yeah. But they're able to do these really precise. I mean, we've seen them grow as a company based here in Austin. Just the precision that they now do with their prints is amazing. And so you'll see there, you know, it's kind of printing along. It goes completely the shape of the house in a row, each time going up one, with leaving gaps for your doors and your windows and everything along the way.
Yeah. And so as a result with that technology too, because it's so precise in its print, you have a lot less waste when you're using 3D printing, because there's not the scrap material, you know, everything is done with exactly the material that's needed on site. It's also fascinating just having seen in person, the printers are so quiet. So naturally, when you think of a construction site, it's loud, you've got a lot of like hammers, nails, people talking, things happening. The printers are pretty much silent and they only require one person to run them.
And to be clear too, as we look at this too, right, like Icon and most of the 3D printers that are working out there right now, like they're focused on the wall system. So they're doing traditional slab foundations. We're 3D printing the wall systems, and then their folks are coming back in with trades to finish out your plumbing and electrical and roofs. Yeah. Someday in the future, of course, more things like everything in the world could move this way, but right now it's really the wall systems.
Yeah.
So what are the negatives? Like what's a limitation? Because it looks amazing. It really does.
Leave it to the New Yorker to say, what's the catch?
What's the catch?
Right up front.
I mean, I think like with any new technology, you know, the general, you know, public consciousness is still learning a lot about this. So there's just a lot of, I mean, we've been building with sticks and bricks for thousands of years. This is a new way of building. And so there's a lot of questions with that. But what's cool with what's happened in Austin and Texas and some of these projects is there is enough of a history of it now where we have things reselling, we have things going through typical home insurance, typical home inspections, all of that type of stuff where it's really, I mean, superseding traditional building methods in a lot of ways and withholding, that's a lot of the mission behind this is to create more sustainable housing and more housing in areas that specific to natural disasters. So
I think your
Yeah.
biggest holdup right now is just, I think to like Kay's point, it's creating the printers, right? Like there's only
Yeah.
so many companies out there doing this right now. It's great technology. I think it's just that it takes a while to bring in a new version. It's a new industry coming in. So we can't immediately be in,
every
state.
market, yeah.
So I'm curious as to what Scott's initial takeaway is. What he
Scott's clearly afraid that he's going to be put out of business.
can't hear you, Scott. Yeah.
Sorry. I think a question comes up as to whether or not we're just talking about the framing system. And the wall framing system in particular happens to be like the easiest part of most framing projects. And so just wondering under the economics of how it does compare in different geographic areas to, stick built or panelized, and some areas do concrete normally for walls, others don't. So I just the economics I have I'm curious about that, and also curious about how you work the wiring, ductwork, plumbing, and stuff into the concrete walls.
Yeah, so the way that the walls are set up is you have an interior wall print and an exterior wall print, and then all of your utilities, so your plumbing, electrical is all in that space in between. And so some of the things that you are eliminating, as of right now, most of the homes that we've seen printed, the buyers and the people who are excited about this technology really like the look of that layered 3D print. So you're also eliminating drywall, exterior finish out, because that is the print wall right there. Some of the things that, that I think make it more affordable too, are just that, you're not having to do those additional trades and the timing of all of those trades. So the overall job site is run more efficiently because you're not waiting on multiple trades. It's all within one wall system.
So let me repeat what I think you said, which is that I am looking at an interior wall. There's an exterior wall, and there's a cavity between them. And in order to install a lighting fixture, I can drill into the interior wall, and hopefully I've planned to run my cables and my wires before the roof went on, while is it while the extruding is going on or after the extruding is going on that I would do my wiring and plumbing?
It would have been coded into your print. So you would have in that print, you would have even segments where the printer is stopping because you have an outlet there.
Okay. But if I've forgotten or want to make a change, I can drill into this concrete or cut into this concrete after.
It's the same as any traditional masonry wall.
Yeah. Like a CMU as is, for traditional side of it.
And what's the insulation quality of this versus say wood or a stucco?
Yeah, so they're right now with insulation, because there are values at an R19, which for us is 3 times the minimum code. So they do have insulation in throughout, and then with the concrete as well, you're also just getting that extra level of insulation and keeping hot and cold in and out.
Yeah.
So
where has this been done before, like on a smaller scale? Like where did this emerge? Like did they start doing this in California? Did they start doing this in Nebraska? Like
so from Icon, who's based in Austin, they started in Austin, so they were here first. We've heard of a few other companies kind of throughout. I know that I think there's a couple internationally. For Icon, when they started, they did a home in Austin first as kind of their test run of it, right? Like they are looking at construction as a whole, and so they focus on the wall system first, to start on. So they did build a home here in East Austin. Then they did do a project in Mexico of quite a few homes down there. I think it was maybe like 10, like a smaller project. And then came back up here to Austin to do another quadplex, and then partnered with Lennar Homes to do 100 homes in one of their more production build planned communities.
100.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so those have the first folks now living in them this year. So those have all are finishing up.
And so let's
You
just
know-
say you start a house. How long does it take? Obviously, it depends upon size and stuff and the complexity, but it generally takes how long? And is it faster than?
Yes. The short answer is yes, it's faster.
On reference points, I mean, the house that was over in Emily's neighborhood, this is one of the houses that they built as kind of a model home. But that home, the wall system portion of it with the printing, it took around 10 days.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some of the things that they're up against too is so much building code was written with traditional building in mind. So you think about things like sound ordinances dictating when you can stop and start work, you know, those are some of the things that with a printing technology like this, it may no longer be relevant, but they still have to abide by that because the printer's silent, you know, in theory, they could print overnight. But they still do have to end construction because of local code and ordinances. So
Is it the unions?
yeah, we're not as much of a union state as y'all.
Yeah, like we're still in Texas.
So let's keep going deeper on this. So there's one in your neighborhood. Is it a 2 or a 3 bedroom? Because I'd like to pull up one of the examples.
It is a 4-bedroom, I believe. It's called House Zero. So these are actually the ones. These are not the floor plans in my neighborhood. These are the floor plans for the project out in Marfa, Texas. But we can definitely talk through some of these. These are really exciting.
So the one built in your neighborhood is a 4-bedroom and about the same size and complexity as this
Yeah,
Marfa. Okay.
definitely. And one of the things that's, I mean, one of the coolest components in my opinion, and I think that's been really exciting to see different architects work with is because you are not restricted to right angles or straight lines, the printers can do really cool shapes as a result. They're just printing code, so they're not, you know, limited by the material really. So this is a design specifically done by Bjarke Engels for Marfa, and these are all based on silos. So they're all these circular elements that bring together the different rooms of the home.
So if you go to the Prada store and you buy a bunch of clothes and you come back, where do you put it? I don't see any closets.
Well, spoiler alert, there's no clothes at the Prada store, so you don't need a closet for it.
Okay.
This one particularly, we built the
Yeah.
closets into the headboards of the beds.
Got it.
A bit of a square bed into a circle room, so it's like the opposite pizza.
Yeah. And Bjarke Engels Group is actually coming out with a furniture line as well. I believe, I don't know if that's like confirmed or not, but that would be helpful for circular or non-traditional room shapes because we're kind of getting out of that non-traditional square at this point.
What are you guys doing for windows for glass? Is there anything specific or are they just like normal windows?
They're normal windows. They
But-
get, yeah.
Yeah, traditionally with most of their builds that we've seen, really, they're doing a lot of these floor to ceiling. So in between, when they're focused on these silos, when they did the homes that were a bit more traditional at Wolf Ranch, which is the one partnered with Lennar, you saw more traditional square windows. So they weren't all floor to ceiling and then just sealed in as well.
Do
But
you
yeah,
know
they're-
do you know what the software interface is? Do you just take a simple CAD drawing and it translates in, or do you have to reprogram for each house, or?
That's really kind of
Not my
outside of our wheelhouse. Yeah, I mean, we are familiar with Icon's technology because we're working with them, but we do not represent their technology in any
We're on the
way.
finished
Yeah.
project.
Well,
So
and I
talk
guess
to
tied
me
to that
about.
is-
So
well,
let's
John, one second.
walk through a
Hi- hi.
case study briefly on the one in your neighborhood. What do you think the land cost was for the 4-bedroom house in
I mean, it's a like East Austin, really popular neighborhood. I don't know when they acquired that lot, but current lot value would probably be $750.
And what do you think the estimate was to build a 3D printed 4-bedroom house on a $750,000 lot?
So a lot of the savings that they are finding, they're still growing the technology really quickly. So a house that they did 2 years ago was much more expensive than a house that they're doing this year because of just the way how quickly that technology has evolved. They do not They do not come in as a builder just for the wall system. They only will sell finished products. So they are wrapping all of those costs in together and going based on market value.
So are they talking about a $400 price per foot, or are they trying to move at an $800 price per foot? Any idea what?
Right now, everything has been just sold at market value. So we're not seeing it go differently based on 3D printing necessarily. We are seeing some of the 3D homes that have been sold in Austin get a little bit of a premium because I think people are interested and there is some novelty there. But we don't have insight into like what it costs them per square foot to build the wall system. And so the pricing we're just seeing going at market.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
And
that's
so
kind of,
what about
I'm
the
just a little I'm just a little confused. So you're talking about building it and then what it's going to sell for. So you're talking about sales value. But what about like if I wanted to, I hired them and I said I want to build 4-bedroom house.
yeah. And that's what they're
How much
not
that
doing right
cost?
now. So you can't hire them to build. They're only building their own projects for resale.
Specifically
Yeah.
Icon. There could be other 3D printing companies that
Yeah.
would be available for.
Okay, but this industry expands and now there's going to be people who are going to customize houses for you. Will it be cheaper?
So the goal of the technology is to make housing more affordable, and they've proven that out. There's an incredible development here called Community First Village that everyone should look up. It's changed Austin significantly when it comes to the unhoused population. And that's kind of their model, is to make housing more affordable. But you do still have other market factors and things at play, you know, the cost of the lot. And this technology is not limited to affordable housing or luxury housing. They're just changing housing overall.
And I think
Okay.
Are there any-
chat to Kay's point about if there's more demand or interest in Texas. I think there's two folds to that. I do think that Austin specifically has a lot of demand for this because it's a very young city. It's a pretty innovative city. We see a ton of tech here. So I think we do naturally have a lot of people interested in this. So it was a great place for a company like this to start and to see some of these homes come on the market. We do know, based on our project and putting it out there, there's interest all across the country. And internationally. We get people who sign up, say, reach out to us, interested. So I think that there will be demand anywhere a company like this goes or 3D printing shows up. I think that there's definitely demand.
Their interest you're seeing is to go there or to reproduce that where they are.
Both, yeah.
Both, yeah. So we have a lot of people interested in either, you know, for an investment or for themselves to come and enjoy purchasing a 3D printed home when it's up for sale, but also a lot of people asking, can you bring it to my city, to my town?
Yeah.
So it makes sense, Roberto, that you're saying, hey, what if I want to provide the design? Well, no, I've only got one 3D printer, you know, available in Austin, and I've got 50 lots all contiguous, so it makes more sense to move that machine from, you know, right down the street and make a modern day Levittown, if you will, and then have each one of them customized after the fact, just like Levittown or Community First. But it seems to me that when Scott wants it, or Roberto, or I want it, or Kay wants it, you're going to have to, I don't know that you can build enough machines. You may have to just license the technology, right, and send it to Connecticut and send it to Minnesota.
I'm sure
that
they're
could be the future.
exploring that. Yeah,
Mhm.
those are just that's not our wheelhouse with it.
So talk about the Sunday homes that you're representing.
Yeah.
Let
So
me see if I can find it again. Go ahead.
yeah, it's a collection of 37 homes, all 3D printed. Got the renderings here, designed by Bjarke Engel's group. We're really seeing these as kind of a getaway respite for people who are looking to come out to West Texas and kind of decompress a bit. You're up against the Davis Mountains, you've got a beautiful natural landscape there, and kind of almost a otherworldly feel to the homes in this context as well.
This is the first project
Yeah.
that we are seeing them use a different color, which is great, but it definitely gives kind of that. I mean, there's no denying that people who found this company probably love Star Wars. There's a lot of like some cool futuristic look to this. But really that desert color to it as well is gonna look beautiful out in West Texas as opposed to like the gray concrete we see with some of the other homes.
And so no closets, so we're building that into we're using furniture and built-ins.
Yeah, I mean, and that's just specific to these home designs. There are 3D homes here and in like the Lennar community that have closets as a part of them. They just really wanted to push the boundaries of the technology with the circular design. So the closets are coming in secondary with millwork behind that headboard.
This project, as much as we love Marfa and it's very cool, we're not living there full time. It's a second home, it's a third home, it's a vacation.
Yeah.
So it's a little, that's not quite as big of a priority.
How much do these cost? If I wanted to buy one of the 37, what is the range of costs?
Yeah, they range from at $1 million, so like 995, right under $1 million, up to 2.1 for the 4-bedroom exterior ones. Yeah.
How many of the 37 have been sold already?
We did a very limited pre-sale with kind of a little founders club. So we did that, we finished up it, and now we're waiting to actually launch kind of open sales a little bit later this year as we head towards groundbreaking. So we've got a kind of a handful pre-selected. So
I have my choice of lots at this point.
Can still get you in if you want.
We can find you.
Okay.
So
how far is this from downtown Austin?
6.5 hours.
6.5 hours.
Yeah, Texas is a big state. Yeah, your closest airport is going to be El Paso, actually. And then you do have a really nice private airport in Marfa as well. So we do see a lot of people come that way also.
So this Cosmico, they probably don't, at least the traditional, from what I could just kind of see and glean, was that they're probably not too fired up about private jets.
I mean, a lot of people actually do bring them into town.
Yeah, again, it's Texas.
Yeah,
so.
Marfa is best accessed by private plane.
Yeah.
So they do have a nice airport that the city maintains. But then a lot of folks do fly into El Paso and come over.
Yeah, or drive from Austin too, yeah.
So what you're selling is at Cosmico, or it's different?
It's a part of El Cosmico. So the hotel in its current iteration sits on a 20-acre site. And this is the hotel brand relocating to a new 60-acre site and building out new rooms, new amenities. So we'll have a 3D printed pool, which will be really cool, a bathhouse and a hammam, a full service restaurant that will be 3D printed, and then the 37 homes as well.
Pardon my naivete, but what's a yurt?
A yurt is similar to a tent, kind of. Yeah.
Like a safari tent.
I just
like
saw that in the text and I was like, I don't know.
It is.
Yeah.
I mean, for as much as it's very unique, it's also like structurally it's a branded residence.
Yeah.
You have a site condo, you're part of an HOA, you get your lovely amenities, and you can rent it out short-term through the hotel when you're not there.
So what is the attraction of going there? I mean, it's not a beach. It's not,
The remoteness itself is a big attraction for Marfa. It also has become really kind of an art mecca. So Donald Judd relocated there from New York in the 70s and kind of to escape the art world, but unintentionally brought a lot of it with him. So you've got a lot of artists out there, a lot of galleries. You've got a ton of kind of art festivals. So Marfa Invitational is a big one that happens out there. You've got the Agave Festival. There's a lot of happenings every weekend. And then it's a really big artist community.
And our biggest buyer pool, which is also what we kind of expected, but we see a lot of the successful creatives. There's definitely there's musicians, not disclosed, but rumor of Beyonce buying her ranch out there. There's these folks are kind of buying into it. And then you have a lot of your high stress jobs. So surgeons, attorneys, they love to get out quiet, no one's around, look at the stars.
Disconnect, yeah.
So that's kind of a lot of the folks that you see going through there. And you're really close to Big Bend and a lot of other really beautiful national parks. So a lot of folks will kind of do a couple nights in Marfa, travel through some of these other places. It creates a really nice little road trip.
So if you have people, let's just say from New York, wealthy people who, they're in the art and they want to go away, would they fly directly there? Or would they fly to El Paso and then work their way there, or like connect or get a smaller plane and go? Or how is
Yeah,
that?
I mean, you could fly commercial to El Paso and drive from there, or you could fly private directly to Marfa.
And the drive from El Paso is how far?
About 2.5 hours. Yeah.
Kind of-
And so from a New York perspective too, we're really seeing kind of a lot of the intrigue in this project specifically come from that art world, where you have this coming together of Big, one of the most renowned architects of our time, designing with such a new technology in a place that's known for art. So it's really a coming together of these things. Like, we anticipate that these will at a certain point be collectors' pieces of real estate, because there's such a moment in time of what's happening right now. It's a sort of a legacy property.
Yeah, I think we've been missing the point, Roberto, talking about cost savings. I mean, maybe one day in the future when we're trying to do this to solve affordable housing, perhaps. But right now, when there's just a handful of these, they're all in Marfa, you really have to make an effort to get there. You're not saving a lot of money. It really is buying into an art house.
Mhm.
But also, I can imagine this being where they want to design their own house, and it's almost, I mean, it could be like, this is a Willy Wonka looking house, and this is a, with artists, I mean, it could be a whole eclectic thing at some
Totally.
point where people are just and that's the piece of art too.
Yeah.
Mhm. Oh, yeah.
Wow.
All right, go ahead, Scott. I know you're dying as a builder of houses to know how do you even work with this? Or is this just this oddity, this fringe oddity? Or is this something that once it does, they do make more of these and they do start, let me just back up and say Scott was involved in the Affordable Housing Committee in town. And when we would ask him, well, why aren't we using modular? He said, well, we've researched that. We looked at modular and we didn't save that much money over stick built moving to modular. Wasn't that right, Scott? So
Yeah.
What's your reaction to this?
Sure. I mean, I think a big part of this is it just depends upon the local labor forces. If you have an abundance of labor, you have options. If you're short on labor, boy, what a huge, great deal. And certainly in a lot of like luxury, smaller communities, there's no labor. I mean, you don't have, here in Fairfield County, we can get 5, 6, 7, 15, 20 man framing crews. If you go up to like New Hampshire, you're lucky if you get like 2-man crews. And so you start getting a whole difference as to, are you even able to build something if you don't have this labor saving technology? And this just, it follows along. There's a whole bunch of other different technologies out there that are very cool. And this is one of them. And, it's obviously in the early stages. And I think a lot of people are watching, very interested to see how it works and where it works. There'll always be issues as to different state regulations and climates and, how easy and cheap is it to get concrete versus wood? And again, that available labor force is a big deal. And I think printers will be another part.
One thing that did come up with 3D printing in general is, in climates where you deal with freezing technologies, because you can't print while it's freezing. It does need to be above freezing for the printers. The technology, from what we've seen and learned, it is fine in those climates once it's built, but the building itself is really challenging and if you're below freezing.
I'll also say on the luxury side of things, there is no changing inside the 3D printing. I mean, you can, but I imagine it's horrifically expensive. And inside of the custom high end, there's a lot of changes, always lots of changes. So.
Yeah, fair.
Valid point.
Can you, let's just say, or will they be able to, if you design a house in the future, I'm assuming you can virtually kind of walk through it to really get a feel of where things should be, how it feels.
Yeah, I mean, I think like that's one of the coolest things that we've gotten to experience is really being inside of 3D printed homes, and feeling kind of that, you know, you would imagine it's concrete, so you would imagine that it would feel cold, but it doesn't. It has kind of just a warmth to it that you wouldn't expect, just with that texture. And I think that's really cool. And one thing that we've been doing for Sunday Homes is using VR tours of the homes to really give that feeling, especially when you're dealing with rooms that are non-traditional shapes. So kind of understanding how you interact with a space that's not square, you know, we're always speaking in price per square foot, how many square feet is this room, and we're looking at circles. So it's been a little bit of a challenge. That the VR has really helped with. Like, I would encourage, if any of y'all want to come to Austin and try the VR headsets with us, it's so fun.
But I think
yeah.
any architect or builder is gonna have to go that way for a lot of these things that are unique. I mean,
Yeah.
like putting it into a VR and really even just being able to do like a 360 rendering, it is huge. Yeah. So then I think, and someone just asked in here too about like fault lines and water areas.
Yeah.
I know that as far as with water, the big one that they have tested against is hurricanes. We've seen a lot of 3D homes being used in the coast of Texas, where Hurricane Harvey had hit. So they meet and exceed all expectations on that side. They went through testings in Miami-Dade County. And, you know, going up to hurricane force winds up to 250 miles per hour. So on that side of things, we know that they've tested there. I don't know what tests they've done in like earthquake.
There was an earthquake though recently, unfortunately, with the homes in Mexico that had been printed, and they all withstood it. Yeah, so
isn't there an earthquake rating for flexibility of structure?
there is. Again, this is a little outside of our wheelhouse specific to the technology, so I don't want to misspeak, but definitely if anyone is curious about the technology more specifically, the 60 Minutes episode that they did on Icon is a wealth of information. I mean, it goes really in depth on a lot of the technology, and especially with climate and, you know, how to deal with weather events.
Oh, and I'd be curious for like Sean and Roberto, your thoughts on this too. I think Kay put another question that was asking about if you're looking to be investing in this type of world, is it with the 3D companies, the technology, the real estate developments? I mean, we're biased because I'm like in the development,
Yeah.
but I guess kind of curious of what your thoughts would be on that.
In the city, I think it would be a tremendous challenge. But outside, it would be really interesting. I mean, if you're in the Hamptons or something, or even where Fairfield County, I can imagine it could be amazing to build a house like that.
Mm-hmm.
How high do these houses get? Can I go 2 stories? Can I go 3?
Icon just developed a new printer that they unveiled at South by Southwest this year that can go multi-story. Yeah.
So right now we're at 11-foot inside interior ceilings. That's the max height of interior ceiling height based on the printer size, because there's an arm that goes across the project. And so that does cap you. But yeah, at South by Southwest this year, they unveiled their new printer that hopefully in years to come will get out into the field to be able to print 2-story. But
how quickly is this industry growing?
So fast. I mean, yeah.
Icon launched as a company in 2018. So I think that kind of shows a lot.
Wow.
Yeah.
And they produced the first houses for sale in 2018, or did they debut the technology and only begin selling houses recently?
They debuted the technology in 2018, and then their first for sale project would have been the Quadplex. Yeah. So those
21.
Yeah, those were the first ones on the market for sale. And they had printed other homes. They did 3D printed homes at that Community First Village, but those were not for sale. That was a part of that project at Community First.
And are they planning another complex like
Oh yeah, I mean, Icon has a ton of developments in the works. You've got another 3D printing company doing a project out in Round Top, Texas. So there's a few that are doing a lot of things in Texas specifically, but all over the country. You've kind of got these. So it's cool. It's kind of like a startup industry almost, where you're seeing innovation just pop up and kind of new competitors hit the playing field.
Wow. I think it's
think
amazing.
One thing that Scott said was it has a lot to do with the availability of labor. And it seems to me that, you know, this makes sense where you don't have a framing crew available. I think what's interesting about the 60-minute special where they talk about the moon and why the moon is because not only are some places you have no labor like the moon, you also, this is the material available. And so
Yeah.
it lends itself well. There's not a whole lot of trees, so there's not a whole lot of wood-built houses, you know, out in the desert or on the moon. So I guess the intent for this technology is to make use of the available materials, and I think that's also another, you know, exciting aspect of the technology. It doesn't require deforesting
Yeah.
So
Megan
can you talk about?
Yeah, we've had many late night conversations about how one would do home inspections on the moon. What that process would look like. Title.
Even too far off for us to talk about. Yeah, I'm like, or put my brain around.
But even in the desert of Texas,
Yeah.
you're talking about 6 hours from Austin and 3.5 from El Paso. And so it occurs to me that one of the reasons it makes sense economically out there is because that's where that's the material that he can use to make concrete, you know, to make concrete, extruded concrete. To bring in wood to Marfa, you'd have to truck it in.
Yeah, definitely.
Is water an issue there?
In Marfa?
Yeah.
I mean, water's an issue. It's a conversation throughout Texas. It's not this project specifically will hook up to city water. And yeah, it's definitely a larger conversation happening throughout Texas, but not specific to this project.
Yeah. And one piece, and we can always, maybe I'll drop this just in the chat for everybody too. So specifically, Icon here did go and do an MIT study, because a piece of it too, of course, is at the end of the day, if we are looking at sustainability or reducing waste, it's not like making concrete is super sustainable. And so they had a whole full MIT study that went through showing how to reduce carbon emissions in that building process, that ruled that it is more sustainable in the long run. So we'll drop that link if folks want to like read or look into that more. That's a piece we hear too, right? It's like you're still using concrete.
So somebody like Kay who's asking, can I build a 3D printed barn here in New Canaan? What kind of advice, since you've already worked with many customers who are asking these questions all the time and then building homes or buying homes, what advice do you have for the Kay, for Roberto, for me? If we're really interested in this, what kind of questions should we be asking our 3D printer, our builder? What should we be asking? What should Scott Hobbs be asking if his client really wants a 3D printed barn on the property and money is no object?
I mean, I would say, like, because it's such a new technology, if you're talking with any company who's doing this and they are willing to print on your land, which is something that Icon specifically doesn't do, definitely, if I were to be in that scenario, I would want to physically walk one of their properties, because there is just, you see such a variance with the quality of 3D printing. The technology is improving so quickly. Some people are getting it a lot quicker than other companies. So even like you'll see the extrusion, like the cleanliness of the line and how clean the turns are, things like that. You'll see a huge variance there. And I would want to stand inside one of their products before committing to having someone come build it on my property.
Yeah, and I would just exactly run through your standard list of kind of what building code they're holding themselves to, and the standard, you know, just seeing that quality of it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then on the kind of ancillary side, you know, there are inspectors who are familiar with this technology. So it's same, like, you know, Megan and I have also done a lot with historic homes. Y'all are in areas that have really historic homes as well. So you always want to be working with an inspector or trades who are familiar with that technology as well. So, you know, someone who's familiar with a house that's 150 years old is going to be very different than someone who's familiar with a house that's 3D printed. But you want some people who are familiar with that technology.
I mean, it occurs to me that, well, so I'm a building inspector. I've seen stacked block construction. That's concrete, you know, and I would say, oh, I can inspect that house. You know, I mean, a wall is a wall. It's a concrete wall.
Yep.
But it occurs to me that there's a whole nother set of things that we probably don't know. Meaning, it's probably because it's a double wall. I'm wondering, is there any risk that the walls will if not built perfectly level and perfectly straight, is there, you know, a structural integrity questions that I wouldn't get necessarily with a stacked block construction?
They are reinforcing with rebar in their current building style. So no, is the short answer.
Okay.
Yeah, they are reinforcing it.
Okay, that answers a huge question for me, because for a moment I thought this was more like a sandcastle.
No.
And now it's a sandcastle with a significant amount of rebar
Yeah.
in it.
But the rebar requires a lot of labor, actually, right? Or no?
It doesn't seem
Yeah.
to what we've seen,
Yeah.
To get
So
that.
the rebar is going in as extrusion is going on. We're adding rebar by hand to
Most of the-
reinforce.
The more recent we've seen are typically around 3 people on the job site, as far as 2 walking and 1 really controlling the printer there. So that's how we've seen these go.
And they're there, and this team's there for, you said an estimate 10 days, and then they've built the walls, and then the finishing crew comes in
Yeah.
to finish the house, and the
Yeah.
machine moves to the next lot.
Exactly.
And how many of these machines are available? I would imagine they want to produce these machines as quickly as they possibly can.
I don't actually, I think I mean, it's definitely less than 20.
Yeah, definitely less
with
than
Icon,
20,
but the goal, you know, the technology also improves so quickly that with each machine they build, it does seem like they're learning still and growing and improving it. So they're not building a ton to put them out there for the masses, because they're still continuing to improve the technology each time.
Pete works for a great design build firm, and I know he's got questions for you, because I can see the creative juices going. He wants to start building some 3D homes. Go ahead, Pete.
So when you're doing this, is there a limit as to how many linear feet an exterior wall can be? Because I can see how all the circles can be put together, but the extruder arm has got to have some type of limit as to how far it can travel or carry across an elevation, correct?
So they've right now really stuck to our traditional lot sizes. So I guess
Yeah.
that's where we've seen them max out what they probably built with the intention of, right? Like the lot size we have here. I would guess they could scoot it, but
Yeah.
I don't. But as far as what we've seen, they've been able to build the full
Yeah.
length of a lot, right? Like the
Yeah.
house that Emily's speaking on, you know, is at least 100 feet long. So they've got length to them, but
Yeah, I would say, like, as kind of a non-answer, most of their limitations have been exterior factors like code or availability of lots or workforce that is familiar with the product, that kind of thing, versus like they can evolve the technology very quickly nothing takes that long.
So
for
what I
them.
hear you
And-
saying is that you've got the inkjet printer, if you will, the nozzle, and then I've got to build a superstructure. And if on your standard lots, I could build a 50-foot by maybe 100-foot frame that the inkjet could move within. But if Pete builds very big houses and Scott builds very big houses, I could build a larger erector set on which I could travel. But that hasn't been done yet because you don't need it.
Well, we don't know what they have in the works that we haven't seen finished products for, because we're really selling their finished products. But they are testing so many things constantly. Like their printer that they debuted at South by may have that capability just based off of it being an ARM printer versus the across the lot type of printer.
I'm gonna drop it in the chat for y'all here because it's hard
Visual,
to
yeah.
conceptualize. But this was the newest addition. So specifically talking of Icon as opposed to just all builders. This is their newest printer that they're unveiling as of March. So that one can move around a lot and can build multiple 2 stories tall. So it kind of solves what Pete's talking about there, because I think in the past, if you scroll down, you'll see the Vulcan, which is printing has printed everything we've seen from this company, that there are structural limitations.
Ah,
Wow.
all right. This makes a lot more sense now.
What
One-
we're
sorry,
looking
one
at
last
there, what
question.
is that? It looks like a mountain. What is that? Is
So
that
that was just a test project for them. That was the
Okay.
first thing they had. This was this year, the first thing they had, this printer print. So it
Yeah.
currently doesn't house anything. They've had events there, but it was just being able to build something that's 27 feet tall.
It's a skate park, Roberta.
They would build an epic skate park for sure.
Cutting back on design for a minute, which again, you may not know the answer to, but is there an economy of scale for doing a design on the house? I mean, there is almost everywhere, so there probably is here, but you almost need it. That building 10 of the same houses makes all of the programming lining up, doing of this far more economical than doing a one-off? Or
I
is it
would
just,
say-
again, the translation of the documents?
Probably yes, just because moving the printer is really involved. These are it's large machinery. So if you can build 10 on one localized site,
And then maybe just
logistically.
for like the other items ordered. So to your point, I guess, right? Like if you're ordering more windows and they're all the same for the next 10, then there probably is something there, but
Well,
realistically, the design should be easy to
Yeah.
input. Yeah.
yeah, the print, it doesn't cost more to change the print. It's
Okay.
materials more so.
How do you handle maintenance? Like, so if you end up with spalling or something like that on the concrete and it's a proprietary blend, how does that get repaired?
Yeah.
I,
So
I know this is all new, so you may not
Yeah.
have that answer either.
For Icon specifically, they give their homeowners repair kits, and that kind of a owner's guide of here's who to contact and preferred vendors. And again, a lot of that has to do with that this is an Austin-based company, so you have people here familiar with this technology, but it
We're-
is traditional
We're still
masonry.
in
Yeah.
between our 1 to 10 warranties, so
Yeah.
we are working. But I mean, that is, we're kind of we'll see how those come up.
I mean, these things really, they look like Richard Serra sculptures. I mean, that's just like, it's extraordinary.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why we're so excited for the Sunday homes in Marfa, because it's living art in the sense that it's, the technology combined with Big's architecture in Marfa, Liz Lambert interiors. It's like a trifecta that I really believe is like a once in a lifetime opportunity.
I mean,
How
thinking about that, Roberto, for 2,000 years, the technology existed to build structures by stacking blocks on top of each other. And then finally we had wood and we could begin to, span and with wood construction. It really was only 100 years ago that with steel and glass technology, we could, with Louis Sullivan in Chicago and in New York, start to imagine glass curtain walls and skyscrapers. I think that maybe this 3D technology is going to cause architects to have to think differently in the same way. It could bring a sea change in architecture schools on how to respond to this, because we began by just stacking it in straight lines. Then we started experimenting with circles. And now we're starting to see, as you said, the extraordinarily sculptural quality, the Richard Serra-like sculptural quality. And I don't think we've even scratched the surface on what these kids coming out of architecture school are going to bring to us.
Yeah.
I'm super excited about the design aspect of this, not the cost savings, aspect of this. The fact that I'm going to get an even cooler art house coming out each year. And you're right. In New Canaan, we talk about the Harvard Five, and we talk about really that moment in 1949 to 1959 where they began to build all these little glass boxes and mid-century modern architecture. And we see the same thing in Palm Springs.
Yeah.
Sounds like Marfa is the Palm Springs of the new movement.
Yeah,
Yeah, essentially.
we would agree with that.
No doubt
What-
about it. But Marfa is going to get as this moves to Austin, and people say, well, I saw what they did in Marfa, but I want something even cooler and more forward looking here in Austin. And you're going to be there to sell it to them, right?
That's
Oh,
the goal.
Can you tell me about the ceiling or the roof? There on one of on the website, it shows, you know, like the roof being lowered onto that. What is the material of that?
Yeah. So right now they are working with traditional roofing materials. So in some of the flat roof ones, you'll see a membrane roof. They have started testing printing dome structures where as the print comes together, it's meeting at the top to negate that need for an additional labor and trade and material. But in a lot of the designs that they've done previously, it's a traditional roofing structure.
Like a little Parthenon,
Yeah.
which would be heavy.
But just think about that, having, you as an architect, you design a dome roof, and then you've got to basically get all the engineering into the computer to make sure that it can be supported and long term and meets all building codes. And then you have to implement that in your CAD CAM, which gets translated to the printer. Wow. And such precision that is required in order to get a dome roof. Oh, this is so exciting. Talk to me a little bit about the Austin market, if you will, because it occurs to me that as goes the larger market, so may go the appetite for this kind of innovative, fanciful design. So how strong is the Austin market now? Are we seeing a slowdown?
Yeah. Austin, I mean, Texas overall is still holding strong. Austin kind of saw some of those biggest jumps during COVID and the pandemic. So we did have a little bit of a slide back from that, but things are trading. We had kind of a really strong start to the year, a little bit of a slower spring, and now things are kind of moving again.
We've seen price correction from the, 2022 peak for us, really. We didn't see as much of it last year as I think some people saw, but the first half of this year, we saw it. And so now things are moving, but you need to be realistic on your price there.
Yeah. And kind of the two groups that are still trading the most right now, you've got first time home buyers who they're not nostalgic about an interest rate that they never had. And then you've got, cash buyers kind of that above 1.5 here, that, just are a little price agnostic to begin with.
How about the migration from California or New York, the moving, from state? I mean, has that settled down a bit? Are we seeing more crosstown moves, or where are they coming from?
We're still seeing relocations, definitely not at the same speed that we saw them during COVID. That was like a lot. But we're still seeing, we've seen kind of more of like a net flow still positive, but we've had some people who moved back to California or back to New York. And then I would say like jobs are still a big driver here for sure.
To be fair, we had probably, a lot of places did, but we had our hottest summer on record for last year. And we definitely saw some relocations back out of town.
Yeah.
But we do see a lot of interstate movement. So I think in Austin specifically, you do get a lot of Dallas, Houston, Texas born folks who are here or go to school here coming to Austin then post-graduation. We're still a really young city and we still have a lot of new jobs. Oracle has their large headquarters here. They might be doing another office in Nashville, but they still have a huge campus here. Apple, IBM, Dell. So it's just, we attract a lot in that way.
Yeah. You get a lot of younger buyers who like that their parents in Dallas and Houston are close enough, but not like a stopping in for breakfast unannounced close. So yeah, a lot of young.
Houston and Dallas are for old people, like parents, I think you said the word was.
A lot of people who grow up in Houston or Dallas live in Austin as adults. Yeah.
And you haven't said the word University of Texas yet, but it occurs to me that a lot of Oracle and a lot of those companies are moving to Austin because UT is such a.
I mean, yeah, it's an incredible school. We are still a college town at heart for sure. And I think like that's so in our DNA that honestly, Megan and I forget to talk about it a lot because it is such a driver of just the innovation and kind of that fresh thinking that comes with a college town.
And now we're pretty lucky with our economy here in the sense that we have the university, we are the state capital, we have a huge tech base, we also have a great medical innovation center. So we get a few things, and no matter what, we're still in Texas. So there is some oil and gas and energy industry here. So we just kind of get that nice mix that I feel like as things go up and down, we tend to stay fairly steady.
Are you both from Texas?
Neither of us are from Texas. Yeah.
Where are
We're
you,
from
both?
the opposite. I'm from Seattle originally. I've been here 12 years.
And I'm from Tampa, Florida.
Yeah, opposite ends.
But I mean, it's so easy for us to see when new people come in because we both did the same thing in our younger lives. We just packed up and moved to Austin. Figured we'd start somewhere. It seemed like a great town and seemed cool. And, a decade later, we're still here.
Amazing. Thank you guys.
Thanks for having us. This was such a delight.
So, Roberto, what did we learn? Scott, what did we learn?
There's endless possibilities. That's what I learned.
Love that.
I learned more about a new and evolving technology that I think has a whole lot of promise for inside of the industry. So I enjoyed it.
Do you think any of your clients up here who want art houses will ask you to explore this kind of technology to deliver it?
Not yet. I mean, there's always an issue that, and I would never recommend to anybody to be the prototype. I mean, prototypes are scientific experiments, and let somebody else do that, or let Icon or whoever else is doing it.
Yeah.
I would not recommend our clients to do it first. But as soon as somebody's done it and you see how it goes through a season and how it all works and what the real costs are, and is there the right teams, and can you get replacement parts up here and all that stuff? I mean, look, the technology, I believe, sound. It'll be something that we'll definitely see.
Yeah. We agree.
Got to get yourself a machine.
I think the prototypes got made in 2018 to 2021, and I think they're telling us it's a mature technology, and they're ready for Connecticut, Scott.
Until you've seen something used in your climate and been there for 10 to 20 years, you want to be a little bit skeptical.
Okay.
A little bit.
Fair enough. All right. I want to express our sincere gratitude to our fantastic guests for joining us today. I want to remind you that if you love everything about real estate like we do, help spread the word. Click the like button. Click the review our show on your favorite podcast channel button. And then come back next week when we're going to have episode 142, where we're going to have Steve Shull back. He is the Full Fee Agent author. I think I have his book around here. Yep. Steve Shull will be talking about being a full fee agent and negotiating to keep your commission. So that might be of interest to you, Emily, Megan. So I hope I see you back here next week.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for coming. And thank you, Roberto. It's always my highlight of my week.
Mine too.
Hang out with you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
See you guys.
Bye, y'all.
Bye, y'all.